This is WWE The Big Show. KC the Most, he is your host. You better listen, you might learn something.
What's up? This is your boy KC. Raw is 3 hours. You expect us to sit through half of a roster for 3 hours? You know what grinds my gears, man? What the hell? Pokemon. This Pokemon Go app that everybody is into is making people lose their minds, making people stupid. As I said before, I am a big guy, and it's not funny having your ass sucked into a chair like a vacuum. It's that time of the week again. Time for another top 10. Anime Otakus, it's that time again. Video game portion of my show, Jarek. This guy is a straight up Kano clone. He has all of Kano's moves. Dragon Ball debunked. People who pretend to be nice, that in front of people they're smiling it up. Hello, how you doing? Blah blah blah. The wrestling match of the week. The game of the week, is it worth it? The anime of the week. It's time to talk about some more Dragon Ball Super. Like, comment, and subscribe. What's up? It's Mr. Kennedy here. I thought I would do something a little special for you guys. This will give me a chance to have fun, and hopefully you guys will have fun watching me do this. This is a tier list of the Resident Evil games. So this will give me a chance to tell you guys my honest opinion about all the Resident Evil games that you see here in front of you, because I played all of them, and I'm going to be completely fair. When I do all these, I don't want you to think I'm just bagging on things to bag on it. So here we go. Now this list does include all of the classic Resident Evil games, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the remakes, of course. So here we go. Let's have some fun. Resident Evil 0. We're going to start off chronologically. Resident Evil 0. I remember playing this game back in the GameCube. It was a nice looking game. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't the best Resident Evil game, but it's not the worst. So I'm going to put it at the C tier. It was fun for what it was. I played it, I beat it, and I never had the nostalgia to go back and play this game. So it is what it is. It's not a bad game, but not that good. It was cool to see Billy and see Rebecca in a prequel before the first Resident Evil game. So I think C is fair. Resident Evil 1. I remember playing this game in 1996. This was the very first Resident Evil game that I ever played. I love this game. Yeah, the voice acting is bad, but it's so bad it's good. I can't hate on it. Gotta drop it in A tier. This game was a lot of fun. It was something that wasn't done before. I love the tank controls. A lot of people hate that. I can't go against it. That's my childhood. Resident Evil 1 Remake. I love this game to death. This is S+. They took the original Resident Evil and they rebuilt it from the ground up in a new engine, and they added to the story, they added to the lore, and it's one of the most beautiful games to this day that I've ever seen. I know a lot of people out there, they want a remake of the remake. That's a discussion for another day. I don't think we need it, because this game still holds up to this day. But I love this game. I still play it to this day. Resident Evil 2. My all-time favorite Resident Evil game. I fell in love with this game when it came out in 1998. I love Leon and Claire. I love Birkin because he kicks ass. Mr. X, awesome boss that just chases you through. I love this game. S+ tier. Again, they took the Resident Evil engine from the first one and they made it better. The graphics were better. The combat was a little better. And I love what they did, bringing in Ada and Sherry, and of course Marvin as well too. He's pretty cool. So yes, S+ tier. Same with the Resident Evil 2 remake. I love both of these games equally. Yes, there's some things that the classic 2 does that's better than the remake, and vice versa. They took the Resident Evil 2 game and they made it in the new engine, and it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. I love what they did with Marvin. They gave him a little bit more to do in this game. Sherry as well too, and Ada. And I love the designs. Birkin looks awesome. I love that they did more with Mr. X, putting him in both the A and B scenario. I love this game. Both Resident Evil 2s. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, 1999, the classic one. I had so much fun playing this game for PlayStation. I'm talking about through Jill's campaign with her, dealing with Carlos. I also had fun playing the Mercenaries mode in that game. Like, I kept going back to play that over and over again. A tier. The story's not as good as 2 and 1, but I still love to play that game. Which hurts me to have to say that I don't feel the same way about the Resident Evil 3 remake. Everything that I just mentioned to you there, I feel like Capcom was lazy with the Resident Evil 3 remake. It feels like half a game. The park is missing from the game. The clock tower is missing. The cemetery where Jill fights the giant worm, missing from the game. No Mercenaries mode. Like, it just feels like very bare bones. It's a very short game. I don't like this game at all. So I'm going to drop it in a D tier. I'm sorry. I know that's going to piss off a lot of people, but I beat this game. I was disappointed with it. I have no intention of ever playing that game ever again. So I don't like it. D tier. That's how I feel. Resident Evil 4. I remember playing this game on the GameCube back in 2004, and this game changed the Resident Evil series. A lot of people will say for the worse, but I'll say this: it did just enough. It has just enough of a mixture of survival horror and action that I love playing this game. I really do. It's one of my favorites. It's actually my second favorite in the series. A tier. I love it. The only reason why it's not S+ tier is because of the original Ashley. That girl gets on my damn nerves. I can't stand her voice. All she does is get carried away, and y'all know what I mean. These escort missions, it's the bane of my existence. Resident Evil 4 remake. The same thing that I just said, but they took the game and they made it. I mean, it's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful games Capcom has ever made. I loved what they did with Ashley in this one. She's far more tolerable in this game than she was in the original. I love Ada's campaign that they did. I had a lot of fun playing through that. S+ tier. S+. Resident Evil Code Veronica. This game, I feel the same way about this game that I feel about Resident Evil 0. It's not a bad game, but it's not that good of a Resident Evil game either. Sorry, Kelsey. I mean, this is one of her favorite games, but I gotta apologize to her in advance, but it's gotta go on C tier. Not one of my favorite Resident Evil games. I don't find myself wanting to go back and play this game like I do the other ones. And that's just how it is. Resident Evil 5. I hate this game. I hate this game. When I was talking about Resident Evil 4, by the way, F tier. This is one of the worst Resident Evil games that they ever made. What I said about Resident Evil 4, about them doing just enough to have a mixture of survival horror and action to make the game fun, Resident Evil 5 went too far to the right. It's all action. It's a run and gun. That's all it is. You never run out of ammo. I hate the buddy system where you have to rely on Sheva, your partner, to do everything. The AI is really bad. And I know what people are going to say, well, it's fun if you play with other people. I don't like this game at all. Like, there's nothing scary about this game. There's nothing that gives you that adrenaline rush. There's nothing that gives you that sense of dread like the original Resident Evil games did. I hate this game. Like, there's nothing nobody can say that's going to make me change. The only thing that I do like about this game It's the Mercenaries mode. That's it. Like, I thought that was fun because Mercenaries is exactly that. You just run and gun. For a Resident Evil game, and I've said it before, I will say it again. As a Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 5 fails in every single way possible. It's not scary. It's not dark and atmospheric. There's nothing that draws me to this game. I hate it. Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6 tries to be way too much in one game. It tries to be everything. It tries to have survival horror in the Leon campaign. It tries to have run and gun action in Chris's campaign. It tries to have, explosions and all that stuff, and like in Jake and Sherry's, and of course Ada's, which is, secret agent woman. It has an identity crisis. I don't really like this game at all, but it's not as bad as Resident Evil 5, so I'm gonna put it in the D tier. Resident Evil 7. Now, anybody that knows me, y'all know I hate first-person perspective in any game. Like, I just never liked it. It's very disorienting to me. I like to be able to see what's around me, not what's just in front of me. That being said, I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to be completely fair about the Resident Evil 7, 8, and so forth. Resident Evil 7 to me is probably the most boring Resident Evil game I have ever played, I have ever seen. You spend 80% of the game walking through empty areas with barely any enemies. There's no zombies, there's no lickers, no hunters, no dogs, nothing. The only thing about this game that I actually like is one of the bosses, I guess you call him Daddy, he's pretty entertaining to watch. Other than that, this game is more boring than Sunday School, but I'm gonna be fair. It's not the worst Resident Evil game, and it's not the best. C tier. I think that's a fair grading for me. Resident Evil 8, Village. Same thing. I like Lady Dimitrescu. I think that she's very entertaining to watch. I don't like Ethan Winters. I think he's one of the most boring protagonists in the Resident Evil series. I think that they try to do two different things with him. They try to make him the common man, and then they try to make him a badass, and it doesn't appeal to any group. He's just there. There's nothing memorable about this guy. Again, it's another first-person Resident Evil game. I know that they tacked on a third-person option, I believe, in this game, but it doesn't feel right at all. This game was made to be first-person. The third-person view, it's just very disorienting. This game feels like a DLC of Resident Evil 4. That's what it feels like. You're in the village and stuff, dealing with infected humans. It just feels very like copied and paste to me, so to speak. That being said, again, I'm gonna be fair. C tier, because again, it's not as bad as the Resident Evil 3 remake. It's not as bad as Resident Evil 6. Damn sure ain't as bad as Resident Evil 5. So I can't bring myself to put it down below C, because at least you can play the game. At least it's playable. And it's not that boring. You know what I mean? Resident Evil Survivor. This is an on-rail first-person shooter for the PlayStation. I don't like this game at all. Like, if you have like a couple of minutes to spare, then play this game if you just want to kill some time. It's not anything that has any replayable value. The one thing that I hate about it is that you have infinite ammo, and anybody that knows me, I don't play with infinite ammo whatsoever, period. So I don't really like this game at all. D tier. Resident Evil Dead Aim. Same thing. It's another on-rail first-person shooter. I know people who like the Left 4 Dead series, you guys would probably find this game to be awesome. I don't really care for games like that. I don't really like it at all. D tier. I think that that's fair. Resident Evil Revelations. I remember playing this game for the Nintendo 3DS. In fact, this was one of the only reasons why I bought the 3DS. This and Mercenaries 3D. Capcom actually went back and they listened to a lot of the fan base that said, look, cut this action crap out and bring back the elements that made Resident Evil enjoyable. And that's what they did with Resident Evil Revelations. I had a lot of fun playing this. I enjoyed this game. However, I'm going to put it in B tier because what knocks it down from going any higher is some of the characters that they put in this game. Parker, who teams up with Jill. I don't like this guy at all. He's just really slow, really plotting. His backstory doesn't really add anything to the game itself, but it pales in comparison to Jessica, who they put with Chris. Jessica is one of the most annoying Resident Evil game characters ever made next to Steve. Steve is he still holds the crown to that. But Jessica is Ada without all of the charm. Like, she tries way too hard to be sexy, and it feels like they just put her there just so that Chris can have a beautiful, sexy partner there. But she literally has nothing, no personality. She's just there. And then you get forced to play as these two goofy characters in a couple of chapters as well too. Not really my cup of tea, but if you can get past all of that, Resident Evil Revelations 1 is a great game. I enjoy raid mode. That's a lot of fun as well too. Resident Evil 2 Revelations. I love the fact that they brought back Claire and they introduced Barry's daughter, Moira. I think that she's a cool character. And the backstory of her relationship with Barry, her father, and the fact that they brought back Barry, because Barry's one of my favorite Resident Evil characters. And I'm like, why don't they bring back Barry? I think he deserves more than to be stuck in Mercenaries mode in Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil Gaiden. Oh boy, we will get there. But I enjoyed this game. I had a lot of fun playing through it. My only knock on this game is Alex Wesker, which is Wesker's sister. I think that she's one of the worst end bosses that's in the Resident Evil series. The design looks kind of cheesy to me. She doesn't really pose a threat when you're playing through it. And I just feel like she was just thrown in there. Like, there was no mention at all ever that Wesker had a sister until this game. And I don't really like her. But that being said, I'm going to drop this in the B tier, along with the original Resident Evil Revelations 1. Very fun games to play. I play them when I come across them. So I think that that's fair. Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D. This was the other game that I had on the Nintendo 3DS. If you guys love the Mercenaries from Resident Evil 4 and from Resident Evil 5, then you guys will enjoy this game, because that's literally what it is. It's a Resident Evil game that's just mercenaries. You play as Rebecca, you play as Chris, you play as Sheva, Jill, etc., etc. It's a lot of fun to play when you're just killing time, when you're doing a commute on a train, or you're sitting at work on break or something. A lot of fun to play. B tier. Dark Side Chronicles. I believe that this game was for the Nintendo Wii. I like the fact that they took us through some of the Resident Evil games again and they added to it. My only knock on this game is that it's first person. It's another first person Resident Evil game, on-rail shooter. And for people who love that type of thing, this will be great for you. I didn't really like it that much at all. It was cool to see Resident Evil 2 again, from a different perspective, but I don't really care for it too much. So I'm gonna drop it in the C tier. Okay. Resident Evil Outbreak. I'm gonna go Outbreak first. These two games for the PS2. These two games were the first Resident Evil games where you can play as multiple characters besides Zero. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where you can play online. 4 players on the PS2. That was crazy. And I had a lot of fun playing this game. My only knock was if you're playing alone, the AI is pretty stupid. Like while you're trying to go through doors and do what you got to do to get items, they're off running off on their own and just they don't stick with you. And it's kind of all over the place. If they had done this game over again today with better graphics and better AI, it would have been an epic game to play. That being said, I'm going to put it in the C tier, both of them. They're fun games to play when you come across them. Check them out if you ever get a chance to. Resident Evil Deadly Silence. This was for the Nintendo DS. This was the Resident Evil 1 that we have up here, but they added more to it. They actually added a mercenaries mode to it, which is pretty cool. They added some new weapons, a little bit more that the original Resident Evil game did not have. I had a lot of fun playing it. I'm going to drop it in the B tier. I think that that's cool. If you ever have a DS, track this game down and play it. Resident Evil Operations Raccoon City. This game is kind of like Outbreak, but it kind of expands. It takes Hunk and he has his own team, and it shows you what he's doing, what they're doing during the Resident Evil 2 and 3 scenarios, which is pretty cool. However, this game is buggy as all hell. The characters have no personality. Like there's just nothing about this game that just wows me. You know what I mean? It's just not that good of a game. It's not as bad as 5, but I'm still gonna drop it in the F tier because they could have did more with this game and they chose not to. They never did fix it, so it's basically unplayable. Garbage game. Resident Evil Gaiden. This is for the Game Boy Color. This is the game that Barry got. Now, I'm going to be completely fair with this because it's Game Boy Color. Game Boy Color was a great system, but it didn't have the type of graphical power that any of the other systems had. How could it? That being said, the story was decent, but this is the type of game that just doesn't translate well to the Game Boy Color. I think that if it had come along during the DS era or the 3DS era, it would have been much better. It's not that good of a game. I'm gonna drop it in D tier. RE-Verse F. I don't know what the hell happened with this game. They had a good concept, but it just didn't work. It just did not work. The servers are crap. The graphics aren't that good. And it's the same for RE Resistance and Umbrella Corps. All Fs. And I'm going to talk about all 3 of them at the same time. Resistance is what they gave us in the Resident Evil 3 remake instead of giving us mercenaries. Remember the mercenaries mode with Carlos, Nikolai, and Mikhail? This is what they gave us. And it could have worked if they actually tried to work on it instead of just tacking it on. It's a 1v4 online game that could have worked. It had the Resident Evil 2 engine graphics, the remake graphics. And it looks great, but you can't find a game to save your life. The servers are trash. And when you can't play online, there's nothing to do. I don't know what they were thinking with that. Umbrella Corps is absolutely trash. I don't know what the hell this game even was. I don't even know what they were thinking when they came out with that. I mean, they didn't even hype it up. They knew this game was bad. The graphics look like shit. There's just nothing about this game at all that's any good. Do not play these games. I mean, if you're curious, to each his own, these games are crap. And this is the Umbrella Chronicles. This one, I vaguely remember which one this one is. But I think that this, yeah, okay, this came out for the Wii as well too. This is the same thing as Darkside Chronicles, where they took you through parts of Resident Evil, but it's still an on-rail shooter. I feel the same way about this game, because yeah, I did play this. Because I bought the Wii when I bought the Metroid Other M, and I wanted to try the Resident Evil games for it. Didn't really care for this game either. You know, it was fun to see Resident Evil stories from a different perspective, as I said with Darkside Chronicles, but I can't get past the part that it's first person on rail. I'm just not a fan of it at all. But I'm gonna put it right up here in the C tier. So there you go. That is my tier list of all the Resident Evil games. I know some people are going to agree with me. I know some people are going to absolutely hate some of the stuff that I said, but I had a lot of fun doing this, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun too. Y'all have a great day. Y'all take care.